Today's edition of What's the Word looks at an event of big interest to the Area 1 community. That's the reopening of the Gateway Club on Camp Casey. It's under renovation, but it's scheduled to reopen in June on the 29th. I'll first tell you, though, why we're talking about the Gateway Club on a radio show devoted to news of Area 1's transformation. It's because the Gateway Club will eventually become Area 1's premier on-post club. And as such, it'll be the focus of so many of the soldiers and civilians who'll be living and working here. Here to tell us what big changes we'll see at the Gateway and how it's going to contribute to the quality of life of our soldiers and civilians are today's guests. They are Mr. Jamie Hawkins, who heads U.S. Army Garrison Red Cloud and Area 1's Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation, better known as FMWR, and Mr. Howard Kuroda, who joined the Garrison recently as Chief of FMWR's Business Operations Division. And between interview segments, as always, my broadcast partner, AFN Casey's Army Sergeant Crystal Crawford, will play the music you've come to count on from AFN Casey, the Eagle. Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Kuroda, welcome to What's the Word.
Thank you.
For those who may not know, let's start by asking what's special about the Gateway Club? What, if anything, sets it apart from other Area 1 clubs?
Well, Mr. Fisher, first, good to see you again. Sergeant Crawford, as usual, great to see you. So anyways, many of you will know that you saw the Gateway Club before it was actually going under renovation. It was a little bit aged. It was kind of, showing its age. And it had kind of an old 70-ish, late 80s look. Not that that's bad, late 80s look, but, it's not up to date. Some of the equipment didn't work, like the lights, the disco lights. Some of the fog machines didn't work. It was just kind of cramped, and it just didn't have very good layout anymore for nowadays. And I just went through it the other day for a walkthrough, and it's just incredible. It's just beautiful. The interior is completely redone. The floors are completely redone. All the lights are redone. It's just going to be a superb facility for both entertainment and eating and drinking.
What is it about the Gateway Club that even made it a candidate for such an important overhaul?
Well, as you know, that through transformation, we're looking at Casey becoming a residual, and if you look at the center of Casey, you see a lot of work going on. So to make the Casey Club kind of vibrant again, to match the rest of the buildings, to match the rest of the structures, it was a prime candidate for renovation. Not only that, but it was old looking.
We'll be talking in a little more detail in a later segment about just what specific changes people are going to see once the club reopens, and we'll also talk about the reopening itself, because I know that there's a lot of excitement building about the grand reopening as well. Let's talk just a little bit more about the character of the new club. I read something that was sent to me by someone on your staff that talked about wanting to kind of make the Gateway, as they put it, a little more hip and edgy, and there was the hope that it would even rival some of the clubs in the U.S. and even some of the clubs in the fashionable Gangnam section of Seoul here in Korea. Is that correct?
Yeah, we really wanted to make that club kind of look like the MWR director, really hip. And as most of you know, I'm pretty hip. But I'm going to pass that on to Mr. Kuroda. He'll tell you more about the whole thing.
Okay, sure.
Boss, you are hip. Anyway, community of Area 1, yes, the Gateway Club is a premier club, an area where we are creating an environment for families and the whole entire community, not only inside but outside as well. The club looks beautiful, new lights, new sound system, new menus, new bar structure. Outside, what we're going to create is different eating areas for the families to come. We have both front and back patios that people will have tables and people can come out and really what we're trying to do is creating a premier environment for our entire community, families, soldiers, everyone in the community.
Would this then be is it fair to say, is it accurate to characterize the Gateway as sort of the centerpiece club in Area 1, or a club that will eventually become the centerpiece club?
Yeah, I think you hit it right there on the nail on the head there. The Gateway will represent what Casey is all about. Taking care of our families, our soldiers, from morning to late in the evening. The whole gamut. Mm-hmm. The whole day we will have programming, events, everything for our soldiers.
Right. Well, here's Sergeant Crawford with the break.
All right, you guys, getting you right back into the music. Here's Let Me Love You, Neil, on AFN Casey the Eagle. Rick Ross featuring John Legend with Magnificent right here on AFN Casey the Eagle, where we're serving America's best. It's 3:22, and you're listening to What's the Word with Frank Fisher of the Area 1 Public Affairs Office. And Mr. Fisher is here telling us about some of the great renovations that are going on over there at the Gateway Club. What else can the people expect, Mr. Fisher?
Thanks, Sergeant Crawford. Hello again, and we're looking at the reopening in June of the Gateway Club, the reopening in May, on May 29th, of the Gateway Club, which has been undergoing major renovation on Camp Casey. Our guests are Mr. Jamie Hawkins, head of the U.S. Army Garrison Red Cloud and Area 1's Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation, and Mr. Howard Kuroda, Chief of FMWR's Business Operations Division. Now let's get a further look at things. We understand you have a major set of events for the grand reopening on May 29th, and we'll want to hear about that, of course, but mainly right now we want to focus on the club itself and how this renovation will leave it better able to serve the community. So first, please, what will be different for the customer? What new amenities will it have, for example?
Okay, well, for example, as you're driving by, the walls have come down, so you see now the different paint we have. You also see the new awnings that are out front, the sail awnings, that is. The entire ground is retiled again. Also on the backside, we have a pergola-type patio, which will feature tables and chairs and also service on the outside of the back. If you go on the inside, if you recall going on the inside, we used to have a dining room that actually opened up into the ballroom. And it kind of, during a nice entertainment evening, it was a little bit loud in the dining room when we had entertainment going on in the ballroom. So now we've kind of closed that off, so you have actually two areas. You got the dining room, and then you have the entertainment area. And also we have the slot room is going to open up again, the game room. And decor is just awesome. It's just a beautiful place.
Did the Gateway Club have a game room previously?
Actually, it didn't have a game room before. What we had was 3 pool tables, and that was the maximum that we had in terms of games.
And what will this game room have?
Well, we're actually looking at different types of electronic games, like the type of things in terms of pinball machines or the hoop game. I'm not saying that those are the ones that are going to be there, but those are the kind of games we're looking at having in there.
And the layout of the club, you mentioned a bit about that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more. When people walk in, whether it's on May 29th at the grand reopening or later, what are they going to see? What'll strike them?
What's going to strike you first of all is the colors. The colors inside are very vibrant. It's not as dark. It doesn't look like a cave anymore, and it definitely doesn't look kind of run down. So it's got that fresh look. The paint, the colors are all very vibrant. It's very light inside, and also you'll notice that inside it has an Italian kind of restaurant theme feeling to it because it's all brick on the inside, both inside the dining room and both inside the ballroom. So when you go inside, you're going to feel comfortable. You're going to feel at home, and that's what's really going to be nice. It's that nice homey feeling you're home away from home in the United States.
That's an interesting point, and I want to pick up on it. Mr. Kuroda said something to that effect earlier in the previous segment, that this is a club that will serve not only the soldiers, but family members as well. And you just mentioned something about it having a kind of family-friendly feel as well. What's going to give it that? What's that going to come from, do you think?
I think the way the structure, the way the interiors is, the color, the brick walls, it just brings it together. It brings it a place that you want to go and enjoy. Before it was very dark. It was very, oh God, I'm going to come here. I'll come in here and eat and I'll take off. And unless you came in there to do some dancing late at night where the lights were down, it really didn't make a difference because the day and the night looked the same. But now that's not the case. At night, it will look like it's a nightclub, and then during the day, it'll look like a nice place to eat and drink and just have a good time.
And speaking of eating, is there a new menu plan for the Gateway?
Yes, there's a new menu planned for the Gateway. You'll have to come and see for what that is, but it's kind of a fusion between American and...
Be more appealing or important to them than would be the case with single or unaccompanied soldiers, or not necessarily?
Well, I think the thing is to keep in mind is that it's going to be a new environment. It'll be fresh, it'll be clean. It'll be, not that it wasn't clean before, but it just had that fresh, vibrant look. And also, you're going to have two parts. You got the dining room, and you won't feel like you're inside of a nightclub. And that'll keep one area more oriented towards those who want to be there as a family versus those who want to be single and out there enjoying the music or entertainment.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Here's Sergeant Crawford with the break.
Absolutely. Thank you. And here's your Casey update. Taking it back to the 80s with Samantha Fox on AFN Casey the Eagle, where we're serving America's best. It's 3:39, and we're still in studio talking to Mr. Fisher. This is our show, What's the Word, with Mr. Frank Fisher of the Area 1 Public Affairs Office, and we're discussing still the renovations going on over there at Gateway and what you guys can expect. So, Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Sergeant Crawford. Yes, indeed. We're talking about the reopening next June. Next May 29th, of the Gateway Club on Camp Casey. And our guests are Mr. Jamie Hawkins and Mr. Howard Kuroda, both of USAG Red Cloud and Area 1's Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation. During the break, while you were hearing music, we were talking here in the studio about the fact that the Gateway Club is special in more ways than one, not the least of the reasons being that as Area 1 is undergoing its transformation process, the Gateway is going to be the only or nearly only club remaining in Area 1. Mr. Hawkins, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you're right about that. As I look at, when we were talking about it, I was thinking to myself, club's kind of an old term. And we do have two clubs here on the Casey Enclave area, right here. You have the Warriors Club, which is next to 210, and then you have one here that's in the center of the town of Casey. So the big thing about the Gateway is really, if you think about it, it's an entertainment and food and beverage place. It doesn't really have the luxuries to really have a special event or a big ball or anything like that, because it's really for entertainment. It's there to go and have a good time. Now, whereas the Warriors Club will still be around, but it won't be a club in the sense that it is right now. It'll become more so a catering center, because it's really kind of built that way. And up in that area, we'll still have Naps, little pub, and that'll still be available for food and beverage and drinks and playing pool and whatever else we want. So you don't have to walk all the way down here, but if you really want to be in a hip place like me, then you would come down here to the center of the area and have a great time.
And just for listeners who might be somewhat new to Area 1, when you speak of the downtown, we're talking about that area of Camp Casey, which is sort of the...
Your balls, you can do big parties, big functions, etc. like that. With also off to the side, inside the facility, Naps Pub.
Well, it's now time to turn to the exciting subject of the grand reopening of the Gateway Club, which is scheduled for May 29th. And tell us, please, about the grand reopening. What time does it start? When do the doors close? And what are some of the highlights?
Well, that evening, May 29th, we're planning a grand reopening in conjunction with the Lieutenant Dan Band, Garrison, who is a very big supporter of the military community, travels all around the world, and performs concerts and such. Garrison, of course, of Forrest Gump fame and CIS and so on and so forth. So very good band, and we hope to treat the entire community to a fantastic evening. Once again, events start at 5 o'clock. We go into appetizers and such till 7 o'clock or so, and the concert begins at 7. Through the evening, after the concert, we will have live entertainment. And we will keep the club or the Gateway open till 2 o'clock in the morning, dancing and partying the night away with DJs and live entertainment and such, and food.
And is that 2 o'clock time, is that the time that the Gateway will normally close its doors, or is that the time that is selected just for the grand reopening?
Right now it's just for selected for the grand reopening, yeah. It's basically that area, we're calling that our after hours. Not after hours, but our after, what do you call that when you have a big show? After show party?
The after party?
The after party, that's what it is. So that's what that's going to be.
Tell our audience, please, a little bit more about Gary Sinise and the Lieutenant Dan Band. I know that when people here heard that he was coming and that band would be here, there was genuine excitement because, as you, Mr. Kuroda, mentioned a moment ago, among other things, Gary Sinise is well known for being a big supporter of the military, and he is known from Forrest Gump and quite a number of other movies and his work as an actor. Well, we will talk a little bit more about this in just a moment after a break, and here's Sergeant Crawford with the break.
Script with No Good and Goodbye right here on AFN Casey the Eagle, where we're serving America's best. I am Army Sergeant Crystal Crawford, and you're listening to What's the Word with Frank Fisher of the Area 1 Public Affairs Office, and we're still talking about what great things we can expect when the new Gateway Club opens. So, Mr. Fisher, where are we going to...
Thank you, Sergeant Crawford. Welcome back indeed, and we've been talking today about the reopening in May of the Gateway Club, which is undergoing renovation on Camp Casey, as you just heard. And we've been doing that with our guests, Mr. Jamie Hawkins, head of USAG Red Cloud and Area 1's Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation, and Mr. Howard Kuroda, Chief of FMWR's Business Operations Division. One thing we want to ask in this last segment is about other major FMWR projects. I will recap for our listeners some of the things that our guests have said about the Gateway Club. But before we do that, let's give them a chance to tell us about any other important FMWR projects, renovations, or whatever else they may be, the Cary Physical Fitness Center, for instance, that are underway or planned.
Well, the Cary Fitness Center on Camp Casey is going to be opening tomorrow, May 1st, their grand opening. This facility is going to be the jewel of all fitness centers on the peninsula. It is just an incredible facelift. We'll also have new equipment. We'll also have an incredible gym. In other words, basketball court like you've never seen anywhere else. It's what you call a very modern facility, a very capable facility of doing just about anything you want. And without actually building on new space, we actually were able to add new space for new equipment. So tomorrow, really need to come by and check it out. Starts at 1500.
And are there any other major projects that are being done to facilities that will, as Area 1 transforms over the next several years, will contribute to the resilience, the recreational benefit of the Area 1 population, besides the Gateway and besides the Cary Fitness Center?
Well, we do small minor things within the facilities ourselves, but these are the two main big projects we've had this last year. As you know, in prior year we had the new Human Performance Center, and we also had the Casey Bowling Center, and this is basically this year's new projects. So what we have upcoming in the future, don't quite know yet, because that hasn't been solidified.
Just to recap some of the things that we've talked about today with the renovation of the Gateway Club, we've heard that there's been a complete overhaul, that when people walk in, if they've seen the older Gateway Club, they will really be struck at how comprehensive the overhaul has been. New layout, new lighting, new decor, much brighter feel, much brighter, more upbeat atmosphere. The food that's offered, the menu, will be a fusion of American and Italian cuisine. There will be food deliveries available. There's the importance of the Gateway Club, not only because of what it offers, but because as Area 1 transforms, it will end up being the only club in Area 1, and there will also be operating, along with the Gateway Club, the Warriors Club. But you were telling our audience earlier that in fact there is an important distinction between the Gateway and the Warriors Club. The Warriors Club is a venue that will be mainly for catering. So if there's a unit function, I imagine, something in the nature of that would require a ballroom and a catered event, the Warrior Club would be the venue for that. But if you're Mr. and Mrs. Area 1, if you're a soldier, an airman in Area 1, and you want a place to go with your family, or if you're single and unaccompanied, to go with your battle buddies, sit down and have a meal, a beverage to go with it, maybe go dancing, the Gateway is the place. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. The Gateway is going to be our premier gathering place for right now, and then as we transform to the future. So it will be the entertainment, food, and beverage area of downtown Casey. And like you said, the Warrior Club will be predominantly just catering, along with the Nat's little pub on the side.
And another part of what makes this so important is that under the planned transformation of Area 1, gradually, by carefully managed stages, other installations, certain other installations in Area 1 will be closing, and so places that now have clubs won't have them anymore because the installations will eventually be closed. And
that's correct. That's correct. As the installations start to draw down, our facilities will start to draw down.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I want to say thank you to my guests today, Mr. Jamie Hawkins, head of U.S. Army Garrison Red Cloud in Area 1's Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation, and Mr. Howard Kuroda, Chief of FMWR's Business Operations Division. What's the Word airs every other Thursday at 3 p.m. Our next broadcast will be 2 weeks from now, Thursday, May 14th, and here's Sergeant Crawford.
Okay, so the question I really want to know is, Mr. Hawkins, where are you going to be watching the fight this weekend?
Well, this hip guy is going to be watching at 3 different places. Reggie's Club up at Stanley, Warriors here by the 210th, and then down here up on Mitchell's as well. We'll be offering the games on their big screens. And the games start, what, at 10? 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.